Alright guys, welcome to another multi-tool video. Sorry for not uploading for such a long time. It has been very cold and I am not willing to go outside to get more multi-tools. But recently I braved the cold and braved it enough to go to Menards, Farm and Home, and get this little beauty. The Leatherman Rebar multi-tool. So, this is just the sheath. As you'll see, I'll unbox the tool here in just a second. Alright, so here we go. The Leatherman Rebar multi-tool. Now, to be very honest, I was really impressed with the quality of this tool when it first came out of the package. I will say that it is a steep price of $70, so unless you're a connoisseur like me or just got paid a bonus, then I wouldn't recommend getting something like this. I'm sure any old multi-tool will do just fine. Before we get into the tool, let's go over the sheath. Honestly, I'm really excited about the sheath. It is a nice, thick leather sheath that it's made very well. Has rivets instead of that weird stitching. It does have a belt loop that does like stay on there, and I don't think that would break anytime soon. Has their Leatherman insignia right there and right there. It's fairly small for the diesel. I'll get the Gerber diesel in comparison. The leather sheath is just as big as a diesel, and the leather sheath is bigger than the tool itself. We'll be doing more comparisons to the Gerber diesel here in a second. But it is a very well made sheath. The multi-tool fits very well in there. Clips in there. It's really nice. I really like it. I've been using the sheath because of how much I like it. Let's set that aside for now. First off, let's talk about this outside casing. So there is a very high shine polish on that casing, if my camera will focus. It does have inches on one side and then centimeters on the other. And then this is the locking mechanism that it comes with. It's a very nice metal locking mechanism. I really appreciate that it's metal. I don't feel like I'll break it anytime soon. It is held together by screws and rivets, which is a nice little touch. I don't mind that at all. Overall, the size of it is very small, and I love how small it is and how compact it is. But let's open it up. So, first thing you might notice is the pliers. They are very well made. They have interchangeable wire cutters, which are very nicely made. They are very flush whenever they close. You see how flush that is? It's basically, I could cut paper with how close those things get. The tip of the pliers doesn't come down to a very fine point. Not as fine as the Gerber multi-tools do, but it's not terrible. The teeth aren't as sharp, but that might just be aesthetics or maybe functionality purpose. Yeah, overall, these pliers are really well made. Has a Leatherman insignia right there, or logo. Well made. I will say that another feature that I really do like about this multi-tool is how, whenever these line up, these equal the exact 8 inches that it specifies, or 20 centimeters. Very neat. I have actually used these to measure a couple things, but it really would suffice as well. But if you have a multi-tool, then it'll work just fine. These are fairly hard to close, so oh well. They do not spring back, but I don't exactly mind them not springing back. I kind of like that. In fact, unlike most multi-tools, whenever you put this in a position, it'll hold it. So it has a very stiff joint in there. But I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive instead of having the spring back. Very well made. Alright. Overall, whenever you're applying things, the grip of this thing isn't too comfortable, but it isn't terrible compared to some others. The grip is definitely more comfortable down here than it is up here, just because there's like tools down there to fill the empty space. The sheet metal that's made to use this isn't terribly thin. It's not terribly thick either, but it has been holding up to what I've been putting it up to. Look, there's a wire stripper right there. That's pretty neat. I'm not too worried about damaging or breaking this multi-tool. It is a Leatherman and it should be well made. And if not, I'm sure they'll reimburse me for such a thing if anything were to go wrong. Now, let's do a size comparison to the Gerber diesel multi-tool. So this is a diesel when it's not even undone. This is it whenever it is undone. It is substantially thinner, I guess is what you could say. It's a lot less thick, a lot less heavy, a lot easier to carry as well. The diesel is arguably more comfortable, much more comfortable, and the pliers are probably better on diesel than on the rebar, in my opinion. But the diesel is much heavier, much bigger than the rebar, so I personally don't favor carrying this. Unless I were to be setting up fencing all day, maybe I'd take the diesel out instead of the rebar. But comparatively, when it comes to size, I would prefer the rebar over the diesel. So let's get on to the first tool. First off, we have a knife. Now, I will say the tools on this multi-tool aren't really anything special, but it's the quality of the tool that really matters. The quality of Leatherman tools that these multi-tools come with is phenomenal. I am absolutely impressed with how well their tools work. In fact, it works so well, I'll do a demonstration. I have your standard metal envelope right here. We're just gonna cut through this nice and easy. So, as you can see, that cut pretty easily. Now I will take my Benchmade Osborne 920, something like that, I forgot, which I do sharpen this blade very often, and it should be razor sharp. Now, let's do the same thing to this male as well. Just a little bit harder and not nearly as clean of a cut, unfortunately. So, the quality of this blade, blade-wise, is better than the blade quality of this $200 knife, which I kind of found upsetting. A little bit disappointing on Benchmade's side. So I really respect this knife and this multi-tool. It does lock in, and it locks in fairly well. Doesn't jiggle around at all. I will say that the blade is pretty thin compared to most other blades. I would be worried about snapping it, although if you're not dumb or stupid, you won't have to worry about that. But if you use it correctly, it could be a perfect knife just for the job. Next up, we have an awl and needle threader. I don't know what the needle threader would be, maybe for leather. But I am really impressed with the quality of this awl. It is more of an awl fashion instead of a blade fashion, like the Gerber suspension multi-tool, or aka the gold standard. The awl on this bad boy is an actual awl. An awl isn't supposed to be the sharpest thing in the world. It's supposed to be pokey and thick. And this is exactly what this is. And it's very well made as well. I do really like the way this all is made. Alright, next up we have a flathead driver. Well made flathead. This does not have a very fine polish to it, which I do enjoy because it just helps it grip on to whatever you're trying to screw or drive in better. Then we have a normal flathead, which is also a very nice touch. I do really enjoy that. Or just a bigger flathead, bigger, thicker flathead. Maybe even a pry bar if you wanted it to be. Next up, we just have your standard loop in case you want to tie something around it and pull it. Makes it a lot easier. Yeah, well made. All these tools do lock in place, and they can all be released with a touch of a button. Here, wait. Once they get them all locked in, there we go. I would be very careful about closing this with the knife open, because that thing can mess you up. Oh yeah, I forgot about the file. The file on this thing is very well made. It is very sharp. I've used it to file down a bunch of stuff. I could definitely file down my thumb if I wanted it to. Yeah, very well made file. Grips very well. It's even filed on the edges, which may or may not be a good thing, bad thing for you. It's not filed on the top, if that makes it better. We have your generic crosshatch file, and then we have your bastard file. It's decently sized. It's about 3/4 the length of the tool whenever it's closed, so it's decently sized. It could probably get the job done, whatever you're trying to do. It does also lock in. All these tools lock in. Next up, we got a rope cutting knife. I will say this knife is just a little bit longer than the other knife, and it has a lot more girth to it when it comes to thickness. This is definitely a better choice for hard work rather than precision work, because I don't think this one would break nearly as easy as the other one. It is also razor sharp as it came. It has a really good rope cutting knife design as well. Just an overall good quality knife. Next up, my favorite part. A can opener. I have found myself using can openers a little more often, especially on my multi-tools, mainly because I lost my can opener, and these work just fine. I have opened a can of tuna with this bad boy, and I will say it was not very hard. Good shit. Good stuff. Next up, part that I probably use the most, the Phillips head screwdriver. It's a very well made casted Phillips head screwdriver. It looks like it just came off of a normal tool. It does come down to a pretty fine point, so you can get those smaller screws if you need to, but it also is fairly large. Well made, well casted, locks in there nice and straight with the handle. Oh yes, wait, there is a wire stripper on that can opener, which is very neat actually. Or another wire stripper aside from that one. I do find that aspect very cool. Next but not least, the saw. I will say, this saw is very thin. It's thinner than the knives, but I have actually found myself using this thing once or twice. I will say it sawed just as well as any other normal saw would. Nice and easy. Cut through a pallet real quick. I was afraid that when I was using it, it would break, but that doesn't seem to be the case. As long as you aren't stupid and bend it purposely, it should be just fine. It does also lock in and doesn't jiggle. The teeth are quality, very sharp. Overall, well made. It's just about as long as the rope cutting knife, which is probably as long as these tools can be. About the length of that handle. So yeah, let's close these up without cutting my finger open. Overall, this thing is the new gold standard. Very well made. Not much else to say about this thing. other than for $70, I think it was worth it, for me at least. I can find myself using this tool for a lot longer than most of my other multi-tools. So, if you happen to have $70 extra floating around and you like multi-tools as well, I would definitely recommend getting this one. Anyways, that's it. Have a good day.